Hello, and welcome to Sharing Stories, a podcast featuring profiles of help and hope from Season of Sharing Fund. I'm David Boyer. Did you know that 1 in 5 people in the Bay Area have less than $400 in savings? And more than 7 in 10 low-income families in California have skipped or delayed necessary medical care due to cost? What this means is that many of our neighbors are one crisis away from falling behind and having an incredibly hard time catching up. They're one crisis away from having to choose between rent and necessities like food and medical care. And in some cases, one crisis away from becoming homeless. Even in one of the wealthiest regions in the world, precariousness abounds. Thanks to our donors and partner agencies, since 1986, Season of Sharing Fund has been able to provide some peace of mind to more than 190,000 people in the Bay Area. The fund has been there for individuals and families when a month or two of rent made the difference between staying in their home and becoming unhoused. Over the course of this series, I'm going to introduce you to a few of the folks who've recently received one-time support from Season of Sharing Fund.
This is my wife.
Hi. Alejandra, nice to meet you.
And this is Emilio.
How old is he?
He's 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
Today, we'll meet the Ramirez family.
My name's Jaime. I'm 27 years old. I live here with my wife and my 3 kids now. My third one was just born. We have our hands full just because they're all under 3. 3 under 3. Me and my wife have been married for 3 years. We have a daughter. Her name is Maria Camila. She was born prematurely, 26 weeks, and she was in the hospital, NICU section in Oakland Children's Hospital for about a year and a week. My daughter right now is 2 years old, and then my son is 1 year old. His name is Jaime Alejandra. And then our newborn, which is Emilio, 3 weeks old.
How did you two meet?
It's actually pretty funny. We met at this mariscos place.
No restaurant.
Yeah, see, there you go. It's a seafood restaurant here in Concord. And usually on Sundays, they bring mariachi there. And she sings in mariachi. So I got a chance to hear her sing. I was like, man, she has an incredible voice. And I caught her staring at me. So we started talking and we just hit it off from there. I do thank God that I did find my wife because, man, she is my anchor and I love her to death. And I love the family that we have going. I feel very blessed, especially now where we're at. Just to see us with 3 kids, man, who would have imagined? And it's crazy because I've always wanted to be a dad. That was something that I always told my mom as a kid. We're Catholic, and my mom would ask me, because I used to be an altar boy, you want to be a priest? I'm like, no, I want to be a dad. I want to be a dad when I grow up. And that always stuck with me. I love being a dad, but there's never been like an instruction or a setup. And even more with my daughter, I mean, it wasn't a normal receiving into fatherhood.
So tell me a little bit about the pregnancy and what you were expecting and what happened ultimately.
It was a surprise pregnancy, and we're happy to receive such a gift. And everything was fine. I was working. My wife was working as well. She was working as a baker in Safeway, and I was working as a laborer doing pipelines, gas pipelinage. And basically everything was normal. She was having her checkups and everything. The doctors were doing the ultrasounds regular, nothing out of the ordinary. And then I went to LA for a job, an emergency job. We were out there for a couple of weeks, and then the job had finished. And I got home excited to see my wife, and it was around January 6th. That day is Day of the Three Wise Kings, or three Kings Men. Basically, it's a celebration in Mexico where you get basically a round piece of cake, una rosca de reyes, that we call. And we were eating at my wife's uncle's place. My mother-in-law was in town as well. She was staying over, and we got home, and then around like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, my wife kept moving around, saying that she was feeling cramps. And she was like, you know what, I'm not feeling myself. Like, I can't really sleep. And then around 3 or 4 in the morning, she still kept complaining, saying that the cramps and stuff. And That's when my mother-in-law was like, no, you got to tell Jaime to take you to the hospital, see what's going on. We showed up to the hospital right away, and we thought it was just going to be, a medication that they were going to give her, and we were going to be in and out. And then, nope. Doctor said that she was dilating already and that the baby was ready to come. But they were going to try everything in their power to hold the baby off and make sure it stays in there. But then, nope, she just kept dilating. And then around 9 a.m, they were like, well, this baby is going to be born today. And so they started prepping everything. And man, the room was filled. There's a NICU doctor, her doctor that was keeping up with her pregnancy, a bunch of nurses, a respiratory therapist, and then like 2 pushes, boom, baby comes out. And, like, we did hear sort of a scream. It was like sort of cat noise. It was like of our daughter being born. I was still able to cut her umbilical cord at the end. And then they handed it to my wife. She was able to hold her for a bit, but then boom, right away, they had to intubate her. And then they took her to the NICU here in John Muir. We were very scared, especially because she was so small. Like, she could feel it in the palm of her hand of how small she was. I mean, we didn't know what to expect at 26 weeks. But man, she was intact. She was beautiful. What can I say? She had everything. She had her little fingers, her toes, and everything. And then that's when they told us that they had some news with our daughter. Unfortunate news. As they were trying to put a NG tube. NG tube basically is a feeding tube that they put in through her nose, and it goes all the way down to her stomach because she doesn't have a big enough mouth to suck on for breastfeeding or even on a bottle. They noticed that the NG tube wasn't going all the way down, so they weren't able to reach the stomach. So they told us that they were going to have to transport her to Oakland Children's Hospital. I was devastated. I remember I was crying because they told us that there is risks also in transporting her, but there's more risk for her just staying there because she wasn't going to get any nutrition if she didn't get the help that she needed. And so, man, I remember me and my wife, we were just praying that night. It was basically a nightmare. So they took her over to Children's Hospital, and basically the first few days, it was a bunch of studies. I mean, they had to examine her from head to toe, see what was going on, and see what they could do. And man, we were afraid because she had a bunch of cables all hooked up, some to read her heartbeat, another one that was a breathing tube to help her breathe, a pulse monitor. They had to keep her strapped down because she was a feisty baby, liked yanking on things. And I was scared to hold her the first few times. My wife was the brave one, and she got to hold her, got to have skin to skin contact, and that helps a lot with the kids. I was just remembering how she would grab my index finger and just sort of squeeze it. I remember just looking at her hands just being so small and tiny. And then we sort of had a meeting, and they told us, well, she's got a lot of problems. First one was that she had a brain bleed. They didn't know if it was going to keep going, if the bleeding was going to keep going, or if it stopped. And we just had to sort of wait. There was going to be some difficulties coming forward. They didn't know if she was going to be able to ever walk, talk, because, I mean, the brain's delicate. But they were just going to keep monitoring her. And also from her being born super young, her lungs were very fragile. They didn't know if she was going to be with a breathing tube for the rest of her life. And then apart from that, the main reason why she was there was that her esophagus didn't form completely when she was in the uterus. And basically the top half and the bottom half didn't connect at all. So there was no way from her to get feeding in through her mouth. And basically it was kind of it was the worst news we've ever heard in our lives. I mean, here we are as brand new parents, not knowing anything. And they basically said, what would you guys like to do? And we said, oh, do everything that you guys can to save her life, and man, to get her wherever she needs to be. And yeah, it was hard because the first thing the surgeon wanted to do, he was like, well, let's try getting a G tube in. That way we could start getting our food in, basically, in her system. I told the surgeon before surgery I'd like to get her baptized. Like I said, we're Catholic, and we believe in God and the sacraments. Because she was going to go under anesthesia and stuff like that. Well, it's more delicate, especially because it's so young. Our case manager helped us get in contact with a priest. The priest came on into the hospital and did a sort of an emergency baptism. And then during this whole time, my wife was breast pumping, and man, doing a great job at that. We even bought a mini fridge just because of all the milk that she was producing. And so we brought in sample, and then boom, they started feeding her breast milk through her G tube, and just sort of seeing what was going on, and sort of just testing, see if she was going to be able to tolerate it, and everything was going through as it should be. She was able to poop, pee. And then came the more complicated part. The surgeon told us, all right, so now that we know that her intestines are fine, everything's working properly, we got to figure out a way to connect both halves of her esophagus together and see how we're going to do it.
But the doctor also let them know that any surgery would have to wait several months until Maria got bigger and stronger.
He says she has to weigh 8 kilos. 8 kilos is around 16 pounds. Because I'm not going to do surgery any smaller than that. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part. She was born not even a kilo, 900 grams. So that's about a pound and 14 ounces, roughly around there. So he was like, get your guys' selves comfortable because this is going to be a long road. I remember my mom telling me, you guys have to get therapists and talk out basically what you guys are going through, because eating all these emotions up and struggling through everything you guys are going through, it's not going to be an easy road. And she was like, make lives with what you guys have. That's right now. Like, she recommended that I go back to work and just get used to everything. And that's exactly what we did for the next 8 months.
Maria stayed at the hospital while Jaime and Alejandra tried to live as normal a life as possible. Jaime went to work on a job in San Francisco and would carpool in and out of town with his brother-in-law. Alejandra would tidy up, and because they had all grown tired of the food at the hospital, she would cook their dinner. And when Jaime got out of work, his brother-in-law would drop him off at the hospital.
And then my wife would be there with a change of clothes, and we would just stay there the whole entire time until nighttime, and then we would go home, go to bed, and start the whole day over again. And we made life with what we had, and it was great. I mean, it was hard, but it was we got to have her be tiny and experience having her as a baby and coddling her and everything for a longer time than what you're given when. So I mean, it was like having a baby like for a very long time, and we enjoyed it. Every part of it. I say that I don't wish it upon anybody, but that experience, I'd live through it again, over and over again, because man, what came out of it, our marriage came out stronger. I mean, we were recently newlyweds, but we came out more unified than anything.
As Maria grew stronger and bigger, they celebrated every victory, big and small, along the way.
During that time, we also got to see her beautiful face, because she was finally excavated, where they take out the breathing tube.
By August, she weighed 8 kilos and seemed like a normal baby.
The only thing that she had was a tube that kept suctioning out all the saliva, because her saliva had nowhere to go.
The next surgery was scheduled for August, and the surgeon explained to Jaime and Alejandra what was going to happen.
He was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut on the side of her ribs. I'm going to try bringing both halves of her esophagus together, and I'm going to stretch them out as much as I can. And so he does the surgery, and he says, I wasn't able to do it. So it wasn't a success, but this is my plan now going on forward. I was able to stretch the top half and the bottom half. So what I'm going to have to do is try getting them close and close together. So for the next 2 weeks, he performed 3 surgeries where he had to cut her open again and try getting it close, seal her back up, put her out, and then wait for a bit, and then try getting it close again. Try to sort of slowly build tension and not have it tear.
The third surgery proved to be too much for Maria.
Her lungs sort of were giving out, and so he said, I need to remember that she was a premature baby and that her lungs are extremely fragile for this much amount of surgery. So he was like, we're going to hold off and on surgery, and I'm going to sew her back up. But inside, basically, he had stitched the esophagus to a part of her muscle so it could be still with the tension and they could be tensing out.
Once again, they just had to wait for Maria to regain her strength. Around Thanksgiving, the surgeon gave Maria the go-ahead for surgery, but there was a caveat that he had to share with Jaime and Alejandra.
He tells us, the thing is, this is the last time that I think I'm going to do this, because if it doesn't work out, it's not going to work out. We're just going to have to wait until she gets older, because I don't want you guys being in the NICU for a whole nother time, because you guys can't take her home with the suction inside of her mouth, he said. So there's one of two options. Either the surgery is a success and you guys take her home normally, or I do another surgery where I take her esophagus out and sort of basically not take it out, but sort of make a hole on the side of her neck, and all her spit and saliva would just come out on the side of her neck as a whole. And he was like, I won't be able to make that call until I see how everything's looking and what's going to be able to go on.
The surgery was scheduled for December 12th.
And December 12th is big for us Catholics, especially us that are Mexican. Me and my wife are both Mexican. And it's the day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And that night, on December 11th, before surgery comes around, my wife goes and sings Las Mañanitas, basically. She sings a bunch of songs to Our Lady of Guadalupe at our Catholic church that we attend. And we're just asking for a miracle, that the whole surgery goes great. And we say, I mean, God's will be done. If he wants us to take her home like this, we'll take her home like this. And if he wants it the other way as well. I mean, we'll accept.
Besar tus labios quisiera, malagueña salerosa, y decirte, niña hermosa, que eres libre.
December 12th came. Jaime and Alejandra and their family gathered in the NICU lounge. They ate and prayed and waited for 8 hours.
Just ready for whatever news we get. And then the surgeon comes out. And he was like, it was a success.
For the next couple of weeks, Maria would need to be sedated to give her esophagus time to heal.
He was like, the esophagus is under great amounts of tension, and we don't want her to lift her neck up because it could tear.
This was a real challenge because Maria was almost a year old and very active, especially upon waking up.
So she would wake up super scared, not knowing what's going on, trying to rip out her IVs, trying to rip out her breathing tube, everything. So they would try keeping her sedated, using a bunch of medications. And me and my wife would have to be there constantly just because it needed 2 nurses to hold her down and try to keep her sedated. And we would try relaxing her by just singing songs to her or just talking to her, just letting her know that we're there and that she doesn't have to be scared. And then the time comes 2 weeks afterwards. He feels like it was a good amount of time for it to scar up and everything being fine.
But everything wasn't fine.
And they try taking out her breathing tube, and she starts turning gray because she starts sort of gasping for air, going like, I call the doctor in right away, and they do an emergency intubation where they try to get her back in, intubated. And the surgeon says, I think what happened was that the tube that goes down her esophagus was the same thickness as her esophagus. So she wasn't able to pass any saliva or spit, and the spit was going down the wrong hole and going through to her trachea and going to her lungs. So he's like, we're going to have to keep her intubated longer.
Jaime and Alejandra had hoped to bring Maria home in time for Christmas.
But we passed it alongside with our daughter, just waiting for her to get better. And then 2 days before New Year's, they tried excavating her again, tried getting her to breathe on her own. And yeah, it was a success. They put her on steroids just so they could get those lungs going again, breathing on their own. And yeah, they slowly weaned her off her medication. And then comes January 7th, she turns a year old, and they throw her a huge celebration because the nurses say it's rare that a baby has to stay for a whole year and celebrate the first year. I mean, usually NICU babies are usually in there for 3 to 6 months, not a whole year. So they throw a huge party. We got to see a bunch of her nurses there. They even gave her whipped topping so she could try. I mean, they didn't want her have cake, but at least whipped topping was safe enough for her to swallow. And we celebrated her first birthday, and I was already anxious. I was like, man, she looks great. I'm ready to go.
While Maria was in the hospital, there was one other family development.
I forgot to mention, during this time, my wife was pregnant with our son. She had gotten pregnant after they did the first initial surgeries in August. And we were excited. It was, I mean, we take it as blessings because that's what they are for us.
How are you not scared?
Because we've already been through the worst of it. I mean, we've seen it all with our daughter. So, I mean, we were just counting the weeks. We're like, wow, 26 weeks. We made it. Or she made it 26 weeks with our son. He's still in the womb. He's still growing perfectly fine. 27, 28. And then we're like, all right, we're past the whole big scare because already like at the 32-week mark, they're not so much in danger if they're born early at 32 weeks or from there on.
Now they had one baby in the NICU and one on the way. But they also had to worry about money and jobs and housing and their future. They tried to remain calm and focused.
So since we knew it was going to be a long journey with our daughter, we were setting some money aside in savings, and then I was receiving unemployment. So I just stayed on unemployment until I exhausted it. And then comes January, we take our daughter home.
Work had slowed down in Jaime's field by then, and employment prospects were not looking good. Their families helped out as much as they could financially, but eventually Jaime and Alejandra had to deplete their savings, and they began to really worry about their housing situation.
We asked our apartment manager for some help. We're like, hey, we're getting to the point where like we're already low on funds, and we have 2 kids, and we don't want to be out on the streets. I'm like, do you know any help that we could try getting, or who we could call? And she gave us a number. It was the 211 number. And she was like, call and see if you guys are able to get some help. Because we didn't want to fall behind on rent. So 211 refers us actually to you guys, season of sharing. And then we're like, hey, we're a family that's struggling right now. Is there any way that you guys could help us with our rent?
Season of Sharing Fund came through for the Ramirez family with the 2 months of rent so they could breathe a little easier.
I usually say Mexicans are proud. But at that point, I was like, I don't care. I mean, I have a family now. I have a wife and 2 kids that are depending on me, and I'm not going to put my family in dangerous situations, especially with my daughter's complications and especially with a newborn. So it's hard asking for help, but in the end, I'm grateful that I did, and I got the help when I most needed it. And we are deeply grateful to everybody who donates and everybody who helps Season of Sharing. They put the money to good use.
During the 2 months that Season of Sharing paid their rent, Jaime looked for work.
I was already applying at a bunch of places, trying to look for different jobs, because I wasn't going to wait until they called me and say, oh yeah, we have work for you now. No. So I started applying, and then Season of Sharing offered to help us pay our rent for 2 months. And it was a lifeline, because I was overwhelmed. I was nervous. We were already down to our last couple $100, and those we were just planning on using it for groceries.
Finally, Jaime and his family got some good news.
I get a job at Costco, and I start working, and then, well, we're back on board because those 2 months.
Costco has also made it possible for Jaime to pay it forward.
Certain times of the year where they basically do a match program. So if you donate a certain amount of money, they will match your donation to whatever organization that you want to donate to.
And guess who Jaime decided to donate to?
I donated to Season of Sharing, and we were able to give back to the people who helped us in our time of need.
Thank you for listening to Sharing Stories, and thanks to the entire Ramirez family for sharing your story, and to Alejandra for sharing your beautiful voice. The Season of Sharing Fund provides one-time financial assistance to individuals and families in the Bay Area during times of crisis, when a little support can have an enormous impact. Together, we help our neighbors remain housed, cared for, and nourished so they can get back on their feet. If you want to hear more stories like this one, go to seasonofsharing.org/podcast. And if you want to give peace of mind to a neighbor in crisis, you can donate to Season of Sharing Fund there too. 100% of your donation will go to providing relief to local people experiencing unexpected crises. And if you or someone you love is experiencing housing or food insecurity, you can always call 211 for assistance. Until next time, I'm David Boyer, and this is Sharing Stories.